neighborhoods in the city to live, even if you moved there originally from out of state? Why do you stay there, and why did you move there?
So, I moved into the West End. I was a youth pastor at Allen AME Church, which was an African Methodist church, and which is on Bellevue Avenue, right off of Cranston. And the reason I picked that neighborhood was because as a youth pastor, I wanted to be near the youth that I worked with, and I wanted them to be able to be in walking distance of my home. And that's why I picked the West End. When I first moved there, I had people tell me, "Are you crazy that you're living in that area?" Because I moved there 25 years ago, even though I'd been working in the city for 35. And so I've been in Ward 13 for 25 years. And I remember being there, having prostitutes coming right up to my house when I was outside working. We had drug deals going on, gang fights in the park. And, you know, but I wanted to be where the kids were. And that's what moved me into the West End. And I think that's one of the reasons that I had the choice after, you know, being jumped by 3 guys, having a gun pulled out me over a basketball game, and witnessing the murder. I had a decision to either leave or to fight. And I chose to fight using nonviolence, and started teaching nonviolence, hitting the streets, talking to gang members and drug dealers. And that was my passion, because I wanted the kids that I worked with in the church, I wanted them to be safe. I wanted the kids to be safe. I didn't want kids to be out on the basketball courts having guns pulled out at them. I didn't want people witnessing murders. And so I decided to stay in my ward, to be able to fight for our neighborhood, to fight for our neighbors, and to make it safe, and to push a better educational system. And that's why I stayed in that ward, and it's still there today.
Thank you. The question is, why do you live in the ward, and why do you stay in the ward when most of you, like anyone else, could have moved out? So why do you stay there?
It's funny because I grew up in the Mount Hope area of the East Side. I went to Hope High School, and that was in the 80s, and I spent most of my time hanging out around Wiggins Village, around Central at basketball games, up and down Broad Street. And for me, and in the 80s, many of you who are familiar with the area, if you lived there then, there was a real distinct color line. If you were African American, you didn't cross Westminster Street over to Broadway. In fact, that was actually called No Man's Land. That was the name for it. Between Westminster and Broadway was No Man's Land. If you crossed Broadway and you were black, it was a no-fly zone. Growing up African American in the 80s in Providence, I didn't know that neighborhood existed. I'd never been to Owls Avenue, I'd never been to Johnston, I'd never seen Broadway. So when I came home from college in the late 90s and was looking to buy a house, the East Side Mount Hope area was the only neighborhood that I really knew aside from South Providence, and we started looking around, my ex-husband and I, and someone suggested that we look at Ward 13. And like I said, having never even been on Broadway before, I was like, wow, I didn't know this whole area of the neighborhood existed. But we bought the house in '99, and what I found was a neighborhood that was evolving, the diversity was coming along, people were starting to cross the color line, although I do still hear the stories. I meet people who are my age that we had mutual friends, but because of that color line, we actually never met. Jackie Poulias is one of them. It's very funny. We're great friends now. I go to Tupelo all the time, but when I was a teenager, we did it and we couldn't, and it was completely different. So I'm really excited to be there in the ward. I stay in it because I see the diversity that's there now. I see the way that the color lines are broken down. We still have work to do, but it's exciting for me to be able to bring my children up in a very diverse community that has come away from that space and is moving into something different, and that's why I stay.
Thank you.
So when I moved to Providence, I spent just a couple months in Fox Point, and then moved to Chapin Ave, and have stayed in the neighborhood, although not in the house. I think I've moved 3 times since then. And it's very much, it's the sense of community that exists in the ward. It is it's again, just a multiracial, multi-ethnic, and a beautiful neighborhood to live in. In Providence, you know, I moved here from Washington, D.C., and I grew up in New York. And in Providence, you know, you find, and especially in Ward 13, where people are greeting you on the street, and there's like something to talk about. And I have enjoyed building that community in the ward, and loved it for that reason.
Thank you.